Welcome to Massage Chair Relief Live, the podcast designed to educate, inform, discuss, and critique the relatively new massage chair industry. Join your host, Dr. Alan Widener, to become a massage chair expert and avoid multiple pain points in your search for the perfect massage chair.
Hi, this is Dr. Alan Widener from Massage Chair Relief, and thank you for joining us today with Dr. Robert Wechsler, a neurologist and also a customer of ours. Welcome, Doc, or Rob, or however we want to call you. It's good to have you here. Appreciate you taking time.
Happy to be here, and whatever you want to call me works just fine for me. This is my this is a civilian job, right?
You're on leave for the weekend. Well, yeah. Massage chairs are becoming a much more prominent therapy in our country and in our culture. They never used to be. I've seen a big change in 20 years. But I am curious to know how you came about to want to get a massage chair. Like, what was it that led to that quest?
Honestly, I was visiting a friend and colleague in Southern California, and they had gotten one, nothing fancy, a very basic chair off of some Amazon sale or something. Mm-hmm. But I found that every time I was visiting them, I'd spend a little bit of time every day in their massage chair.
Yeah.
And my parents recently passed away, so I had a little extra money, and I thought, well, maybe I should look into this. And I started doing research, and being a scientist by training, of course, I'm doing serious research. And what I found really strange was that the more I read about them, the more confused I got.
Was that because of the amount of information, or just the diverging types of information?
There doesn't seem to be a standardization to the terminology.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Between the SL track and the J track and the 3D and 4D and all these things. And if you try to do, you even go on a manufacturer website, right? So early in my research, I concluded that Osaki was apparently one of the more serious brands on the market. But even if you go on their website and try to do side-by-side comparisons, it's a little bit apples and oranges. They use one terminology in one chair and a different terminology on a different chair. And so when you put them side by side, you still don't know what you're looking at. So then I started looking for stores, and I discovered that there was not a massage chair retailer in Boise. And I was headed down to Salt Lake for some business and to visit my daughter, and found your store, and asked my daughter if she'd like to swing over there with me and test drive some chairs, which we did, and ended up picking this one, obviously.
Now, did you have pain or symptoms that maybe you didn't realize were maybe treatable to some degree by a chair?
I had a number of issues, right? And as a physician, I was kind of mindful of these issues and trying to work on them, but I definitely had periodic, just tight low back pain kind of stuff. I had a little bit of a ski injury this past winter. My best guess is that it's gluteus medius tendonitis, mm-hmm. from kind of trying to figure it out myself. A few years ago, I was standing in the shower doing the squeegee thing, and I look over at my shoulder, and I've got these, fasciculations in my shoulder. And I thought, wait a minute, Rob, you're a neurologist. You know what this is. Now, in my own defense, I subspecialize in epilepsy, so I don't see a lot of peripheral neurology. But I called up a colleague and asked her to order me an MRI, and I actually have quite a lot of arthritis in my neck. Wow. I got a new physician. They took my height, and I had lost an inch somewhere along the way. And I suspect most of that height loss was in my neck. So I've had neck issues for a few years now. And and then just, the usual knots below the, or besides the shoulder blades that we all get with stress,
Yeah.
and that all kind of plays into posture and so forth. And that's what I was most mindful of. I knew that I was very slouchy, and really wanted to work on that. So what got me excited um, to do this interview with you is we got this chair delivered, gosh, maybe about 6 weeks ago. And I've used it just about every day if I've been in town. And what I found was that I just feel so much better. My posture's better. And, if I put myself into a good posture like I know I should be in, it doesn't hurt. And that was really surprising to me. So I kind of went after this massage chair, like I said, more of a, I know it's going to feel good. It's kind of a novelty thing. Um, but I've found that it's actually helped quite a lot. My pain in my neck is not present all the time anymore. Range of motion's pretty good. So I'm just thrilled with it.
Wow. You had mentioned in one of the emails in our conversation when we were talking about an interview, you had mentioned that you had been flying to Atlanta, and typically you had expected from flying and from staying in a hotel, you're expecting to be sore based on your
Oh yeah.
previous experience. But what was the result?
Well, so I had to get to Atlanta in time for a dinner meeting. So I left Boise on a 5:30 a.m. flight, and it was a last minute deal. So there was no opportunity for using my points for an upgrade or anything. So the Delta put me into Comfort Plus from Boise to Minneapolis, but I was in the middle seat.
Oh, okay. It's always
And I just tried my best to kind of stay rail straight between these other two people and try to doze off a little bit. And then by the time I got to Minneapolis, I was exhausted. And then I had this Minneapolis to Atlanta flight. There was no upgrade whatsoever. I was in the very back of the plane, the row that doesn't even recline.
yeah. Been there.
And I curled up as best I could. At least I was up against the window. And the last thing I thought to myself before I actually fell asleep, and I was so tired, I actually fell asleep in that position. But I thought, man, I'm going to be in pain when I wake up. And so we get to Atlanta, I'm running around, grab my bag, I'm getting into Uber. I've got to go get cleaned up for dinner. And at some point along the way, I'm like, hey, wait a minute. I don't have any pain.
Yeah.
And that was really surprising to me.
Well, it's a pleasant surprise. And I think a lot of people, well, one of the questions I ask when I do these interviews is, did you notice anything else besides the symptom that you were after when you went to look for a massage chair? And obviously, I don't think you were even thinking of this as a symptomatic therapy. You were just thinking of this as kind of, I sat in friends and it felt nice, and I'd like to have,
Yeah.
I'd like to have one. But now it turned into something much more than that. So you're not alone in that. Uh, but I'm very pleased to hear that that you noticed a change. And most people, if they notice a change, it'll be pretty quick. And I think
Yeah.
you said it had been about a month at that point that you'd had the chair,
Yep.
and you felt great. But it wasn't until it wasn't from sitting in the chair that you had immediate gratification. It was sometime a little bit later when you hadn't even realized that you had that these symptoms had abated. So it was kind of a surprise to you.
It was kind of a surprise. And then in the follow-up to that trip, I started playing a lot more with the manual settings on the chair. And I kind of scooched myself up in the chair so that I could get the rollers right down by that sit bone where that tendon is that I thought I injured in skiing. And boy, did I find it. It was pretty tender. And I thought, well, I'm gonna let the chair work in just that one spot for a little while. I don't know. And the first time I did it was maybe 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And prior to that, I had been doing, have my yoga mat and the foam roller with the little knobbies in it. And I was trying to do that. And I had a strap that I could use to hold on to my foot and stretch all those upper posterior thigh muscles, and I could kind of get that spot. And I, I I thought to myself as I found it, because it really stung, and I thought, well, this is either going to help it a lot or it's going to make it a lot worse.
Yeah.
But I was willing to give it a shot, and it actually helped a lot. Um, you know, I I can tell you, so we drive up to Sun Valley a lot. My in-laws have a place up there, and it's about a 3-hour drive from our house. This year, we've gone up there, I don't know, maybe half dozen times or so. And typically it's been uncomfortable for me to sit in the driver's seat for 3 hours at a stretch. I'm kind of like sitting sideways, um, just trying to get pressure off that spot.
Yeah.
And after I did this, I drove up to Sun Valley, and I got all the way up there without the discomfort.
Jeez.
So I've kind of worked that into my daily routine, that I kind of try to hit that spot a little bit, just about every day as well.
Is anyone else in your home using it? Or are you?
My wife's been using it, and she also has been pleasantly surprised. You know, at first, when I told her I was going to get a massage chair, she would refer to it as my massage chair, right? Like, oh, your massage. Okay, you can get your massage chair. And but now we've had a couple of times where we've shown up hoping to use the chair at the same time, and we have to decide who gets to go first.
Well, what's funny, it's countless the number of times where a couple has come to the showroom, and the wife will say, or the husband will say, "Oh, that's for my wife. This is for my wife. Whatever she wants, whatever she wants." And then invariably we hear back from them, and it's the husband who's hogging the chair all the time now, because he didn't think he needed massage. But once you're exposed to it and you feel, and it's not just pain and muscle tightness, it's just general relaxation. Some people just
Oh
want
yeah.
to relax. And but I if I had $1 for every time I had a couple tell me something like that, I could certainly eat out at a nice restaurant. Have you, and I'll ask you the same thing, did you notice anything else in terms of the way you felt after the chair? Obviously the musculoskeletal stuff, but some people say that they sleep better. Some people say they have a little longer endurance during their work day or whatever from the massage.
Well, I'll confess, there've been a few occasions where I've been in the chair towards the end of the evening and fallen asleep there.
Mm-hmm.
The other night, I think I was out so soundly that my wife couldn't even wake me, so she just left me in the chair. I woke in the chair at like 3 a.m, went upstairs, and I thought, boy, I might not feel so good tomorrow, but it was fine. It was a very restful sleep, both in the chair and then afterwards. I had one other really interesting experience yesterday, because I have a little bit of hypertension, take some losartan for that. And when I first figured it out, I had diagnosed myself. I would have these low-grade headaches. I wasn't sure what was going on. I was mountain biking, but it was hard to keep the line. And I did this favorite trail that I know like the back of my hand, and in a 2-hour ride, nearly went off the trail about a dozen times. And I wasn't sure what was going on. And then one day I was in the office with a patient, and I'd been sitting talking to this patient for like an hour, got up out of my stool, walked about 30 seconds, and then I started to feel really weird. And that's when it clicked. Okay, this has got to be blood pressure. I did a detailed log of my blood pressure under various circumstances, whenever I felt weird, first thing in the morning, before exercise, after exercise. And took it to my primary care. He didn't even look at it. He said, "Yeah, I'm always trying to convince people they have high blood pressure. If you're convinced, I'm already convinced." So I've been on medication for a while. I've got my primary care visit coming up. But yesterday I was on the phone with my daughter at the end of clinic, and I stood up, and walked to look out the window, and I got that weird feeling again. And I thought, man, I think, I've been taking my medicine, but my blood pressure, I think, is high. And I checked it, and it was. Um, and I told my wife, and it was kind of like borderline scary high, right? So hypertensive emergency would be diastolic of, say, over 100, and my diastolic was at 97.
Jeez.
And
What was your systolic? Was it pretty high too?
no, I was like 140.
Okay.
And I thought, well, it's kind of a crazy day, jumping from patient to patient to patient, and I know I took my medicine. I'm going to get in the chairs. I'm just out of curiosity, because it's very relaxing. And
Mhm.
one of the biggest criticisms I've always had of doctors taking blood pressures is, you're in a rush to get to the doctor's office. You've already had something to eat and drink that day. You're nervous because you're about to see your doctor. They take you into the exam room. They sit you in a chair, and they take your blood pressure with your clothes on. And it's not what I was taught, which is you're supposed to get the patient into a quiet room, maybe even a dark room, have them lay down for 5 minutes, and then check their blood pressure, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought, I wonder what my blood pressure difference will be if I just get in the chair.
Yeah.
So I grabbed my blood pressure cuff, and I got in the chair. And when the program was done, I checked it again, and I was down to 131 over 83.
Wow.
So it was a pretty
Significant.
substantial improvement. Um, Now I'll probably still need to add another medication when I see my doctor, but I with that diastolic, I was within 3 points of maybe I should go to the emergency room and get something right away. So,
Well, we
um,
have one of our customers is a manager. He has a stress center in Weber State University in Ogden, and he ordered some massage chairs from us, and ended up doing a study on, because they have thousands of people that go through that clinic every year,
oh,
and
sure.
they measured pulse, blood pressure, perceived stress, and perceived pain, and all of them uh, statistically, I shouldn't say all of them, but I mean all of the four categories. The difference was statistically significant when they sat in the massage chairs, and blood pressure was one of those things. And we did an interview with him. It was one of our live broadcast, and we talked to him and about that study, and it was very fascinating. He's all sold on massage chairs, not because he bought one and he liked it. It was because he sees the effect it's having on the students and the administration at the university. So what you're saying does ring true to me, having been a part of that study. But that's fascinating that you're probably one of the few people who would be aware enough to actually measure their blood pressure while they're in the chair. So I find that fascinating. That's fantastic.
Yeah. No, that was and with blood pressure naturally goes up and down throughout the day, but having periods of lower blood pressure is is better than having it high all the time, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times blood pressure will be higher if we don't sleep well, or if we don't get enough sleep.
Yeah.
So I genuinely believe, after having a little bit of actual data in front of me to look at, that this is probably helping. And it feels good. It's a tour in the chair is a little bit refreshing, kind of like a nap would be,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I agree. And now you got the Titan Fleetwood, which is a very aggressive chair. How was it comfortable for you right off the bat, or did you have to adjust the intensity or put a blanket behind you or anything like that?
No, my biggest, whenever I've gotten a massage, my biggest disappointment has always been when they don't go hard enough.
Oh yeah.
One of the better massages I've ever purchased was at a resort in Thailand, where they actually climb up on top of you, and they're using their forearms and their elbows and their knees. So for me, it was great. I actually probably about half the time we'll bump it up to sort of the intense setting.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have the adjustability because my wife actually goes the other way. She prefers to set it to the gentle setting.
Yeah. And a chair, we adapt pretty quick. If the chair is a little bit intense at first, usually we can adapt and it doesn't feel as intense later. But that chair is known as a more aggressive chair. It's definitely a strong, what we would call a deep tissue massage.
Yeah,
So,
and honestly, that's a little bit what sold me on it when I tried it out in your store, which, by the way, what a great opportunity, and you have a very nice salesman, but to be able to sit in, I think I sat in about 3 different chairs,
yeah,
and I could feel some of those differences.
yeah.
And for me, it was okay. I walked into your store with about 8 models in mind that I was thinking about.
Yeah.
And um and then by the end of the demoing, I knew what I wanted. I think I said I've got to get it okayed with my wife, but I'm going to order the chair. And I did a day
Better to
or two
ask,
later.
better to ask for forgiveness and permission sometimes.
True.
Well, the chairs, some people notice a change almost instantaneously because they've never had any musculoskeletal work done at all. And all of a sudden, this little chair runs on their back for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and they will notice. I remember when we used to do like the home show and things like that, where we'd push our wares. People would come back people would only sit on the chairs for maybe 5 minutes at a time. And a number of people would come back and say, I had a headache when I went on that chair and it's gone. So sometimes it doesn't take long at all for to notice something, especially if your body's a little wired up, especially the muscles, particularly the
Well,
muscles.
I'll tell you, when I was in your store with my daughter, she was having a little bit of a sacroiliac joint issue, and she was in quite a bit of pain. And when we got in the car, she said, I think I was in that chair and I got a pop and now I feel fine.
There you go.
I said,
Well,
well, that your salesman had told her that she should bring her boyfriend down and they could make a date out of it and sit in some chairs and then get dinner next door.
that would be
And I
fun.
said, well, if it happens again, there you go.
She knows where to come. Where does she live in the valley here?
In over in Sugar House.
Oh, okay. So she's more downtown.
Yeah, so she just graduated from the U, and she's doing biomedical engineering, and she just got a short-term job in Salt Lake, and her boyfriend's also got an engineering job in Salt Lake. So we're hoping they actually stay there because it's nice to have them close.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Tell me about it. I've got one kid in New Jersey and one in San Jose, and they're the ones with the grandkids, and that
That's
just
hard.
drives me nuts. So I'm with you. I'm with you on that one. And if coming to the store from time to time for date night to sit on the massage chairs keeps them here, well, good. Then
There you go.
mission
That's
accomplished.
right.
Now, for anybody that is looking for a massager, because a lot of people that are going to watch this video are people who are shopping and they run across our videos. What sort of advice or tips would you give them in their quest for a chair?
Well, I tell
Or
them to
warnings or whatever.
I would say don't get overwhelmed by all the stuff online, and be emotionally prepared for the fact that you're not going to be able to make a very good assessment or comparison just online.
Okay.
What if they're within driving distance. I had a great experience with your store. I would absolutely recommend that. But even if they're geographically further away, get into a showroom somewhere, sit in a
Yeah.
few chairs. Go to the state fair. Sometimes the state fairs will have little deals set up and you can try different chairs. But do something like that and get in some chairs, because you know how they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. It kind of goes the same way for this kind of thing. Spend an hour in 3 different chairs and you'll have a pretty good idea of what you're looking for.
Yeah, that's good advice. That's why we have the showrooms, because we know that people it's hard to make a decision about a thing like a massage chair when you're not in it. And you can go online and hear about chairs that are for sale and good deals and pretty marketing, but you get the chair and you're either too tall or too short or too wide, or it doesn't feel right. It doesn't not strong enough. So yeah, that's great advice. Definitely
You know,
need to.
thinking about where it's going to go, measuring out the space, making
Oh
sure that
yeah.
it's actually going to fit there. Um, uh, I, I, I think that also helped us out. We had a pretty good idea of where we wanted it to go, and a couple of different pathways that we could
Get it there.
help get the guys to get it here. Um, so yeah, but all in all, just a very, very positive experience.
Well, I'm so glad to hear that. One thing I just want to kind of address briefly, when you started your discussion, you were talking about getting confused by the conflicting terminologies and information. And that is that our industry is quite infantile. And, you know, where we're at right now is sell chairs, sell chairs, sell chairs. That's what our industry is all about. Even the distributors often focus more on the sales than they do on the education. And that's something that I think will change as our industry matures more. It will be more.
Well, you know, I think people are legitimately nervous, right? I mean, it's a big ticket purchase.
Yeah.
You know, there's also we're living in a time where there's a little bit of a stigma to having affluence, and being able to buy a massage chair feels very affluent,
Uh-huh.
right? Um, so I don't know what your experience has been with other folks, but it seems like it would be a topic that, you know, you unless you know someone really well, you might not just blurt out, "Well, by the way, you know, I got this great massage chair."
Yeah. Maybe a little embarrassed to admit it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, but
So you know, I don't know how many of my friends and relatives actually have massage chairs.
yeah. Well, but to a person, if they came to your house and saw it, they'd want to sit on it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. So it's like and now the industry has gone to such a point where it's you've got the very expensive chairs and then you've got the cheaper models. And the difference is much more pronounced than it was when I started 20 years ago. When I started 20 years ago, a chair was about $2,000. That was it. Now to get a $2,000 chair that's worth anything, very, very difficult. And so now you're seeing a kind of a divide between the high end chairs and the cheap low end. What we call them disposable chairs, because those companies that sell them very seldom have support or parts or anything, and so you end up tossing it out and getting a new one. But
yeah,
yeah, I think the market realized what you're saying, that it's only for the rich or only for the affluent. But now the market is diverging to where you can get it. You can get an introductory chair into the market. It may not be the best. It may not fit exactly right, but it can get you started. And
yeah.
then and then once you have something like that, then the next time you go, you're ready for something better. You get it.
Well, you know, I'll tell you what silly little thing, but it helped sway me towards the Fleetwood is just the more logical designation of most of the automatic programs.
Hmm.
You know, so the version I got has the nice touch screen, and you know, I want, gosh, I want my shoulders and neck worked on. There's a program called Neck and Shoulders, right?
Yeah.
My friend in Southern California, her chair has 6 programs, but they're A, B, C, D, E, and F,
Yeah.
right? And
Doesn't
and
say
the
much.
control looks like an old cable remote
Yeah.
that's still attached by a cable to the by a wire to the chair.
Yeah.
Um, and so to me, the chair I've got feels very elegant.
Yeah.
It's well put together. The touch screen is a nice feature. Um, and I just like that the description of what I'm going to get when I press that choice
Yeah.
is I don't have to make a cheat sheet,
Yeah.
right? If my neck hurts, I need to play program B in the first 10 minutes and then.
Well, that chair, the Fleetwood, is made in a very good factory. It's the Rotai factory, which is one of the top factories, massage chair factories in China, and there are hundreds of them. It's a very, very well built chair. But we did a video with our local tech here, Justin, a number of years ago, and we compared a cheap $500 chair from Amazon to a nicer, high end chair, and he kind of picked it apart inside, and it was almost embarrassing to look how poorly made the cheap chair was. They had wood in the frame. They didn't even have rollers. They didn't have rollers like your chair has. They had discs that moved, and they couldn't even hit every part of the back. And it was embarrassing to see that kind of technology. But there's people that can afford that, and that's their gateway drug, if you will.
Or they're just dabbling, right? I'm not ready to make an investment, but I'd like to get one and see what it's like, and then they'll trade up eventually.
But it's certainly a thriving industry, but it's still very infantile. We've got a long way to go to not smack of charlatanship and snake oil, But anyways, well, Doc, thank you so much. Is there anything else that you want to add that maybe I didn't ask you about, or?
No, honestly, I think we kind of covered all the things that, I was thinking about the benefits of the chair when I got your email asking about this interview, and I had thought, gosh, being a doctor, do I really want to be on a video seeming to endorse anything?
Yeah.
And then I thought, you know what? I mean, it's helped me, and this is my story, and hopefully hearing it helps someone else.
Thank you. And that's what we care about, the story and your experience. And of course, you're very articulate in the way that you explain the benefits of it and how it's kind of helped you. But the story is the same pretty much. For people that have had a positive experience with a massage chair, there's a lot of similarities, and we love hearing about those. It reinforces the notion that this could be a therapy that can help you. So thank you so much for coming on the call today. It was great.
No, and thank you for setting up your shop the way that you did, because I would have been floundering still, perhaps, without having that as a resource. Yeah. So that was a huge help.
Well, you're the one that drove the 5 hours to come see us, so we appreciate that. And I've been to that drive to Boise. We have family up in Boise, and I'm at the age now where I don't really enjoy driving long distances. And that one's a challenge sometimes for me. So I know you came a long way to get to us. So thank you.
Well, my daughter being there helped.
Oh, yeah. So secondarily, your daughter was there, yes. But thank you for coming to see the massage chairs first. No, thanks. It was great visiting with you. I really appreciate you.
Nice meeting you, at least by video.
Yeah. Well,
have a good one.
What you see is what you get. But have a great weekend. Thanks, Doc.
Thank you. You as well. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Massage Chair Relief Live podcast. Subscribe to this podcast and be notified of each episode. Check out our main website at massagechairrelief.com for much more valuable information on the massage chair industry and marketplace.